Imagine the most iconic figure in country music standing in front of a packed audience at the height of his career. The lights, the applause, the cheers, he's at the peak of it all.
So without further ado, here's the fabulous Johnny Cash.
But what if, in one moment, it all came crashing down? It was 1965. Johnny Cash, the man who had conquered the country charts, had the world at his feet. But on this night, at the Grand Ole Opry, something went terribly wrong. For a man who built his career on defiance, rebellion, and authenticity, Johnny was about to face a moment that threatened to erase it all. His actions that night at the Opry shocked the audience, enraged the powers that be, and left him standing on the edge of losing everything.
So, what happened that night? And how did Johnny fight back to reclaim his legacy?
To understand how Cash reached this moment, we have to go back to where it all started.
This is the night that Johnny Cash almost lost it all.
Born in 1932, Johnny Cash grew up in Northeast Arkansas during the Great Depression. The hardships of that time shaped him into the man he would become. Raised in a poor working-class family, Johnny's early life was marked by tragedy.
His older brother Jack, who was his hero, died in a horrific table saw accident when Johnny was just 12 years old.
That loss haunted Johnny for the rest of his life, leaving a scar that would manifest in his music. Music, though, would become Johnny's refuge. He listened to the radio as a kid, and he was influenced by gospel, country, and blues music drifting through the South. But it was his time in the Air Force where he really picked up the guitar.
His voice was deep and authentic, perfect for the stories that he wanted to tell.
And from those early days, Johnny developed a unique sound, one that was unlike anything heard before in country music. It wasn't polished, but it was real and deeply personal.
In 1954, Johnny moved to Memphis, Tennessee, a city alive with musical innovation.
He knocked on the door of Sun Records, hoping for a break.
Johnny called and wanted to get an audition. I was impressed with his voice. Johnny's voice resonated with me as something that was very different.
Sam Phillips, who had discovered Elvis Presley, heard something in Johnny's voice. It was simple, but it was powerful. His first major hit, Cry, 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 was followed by Folsom Prison Blues and I Walk the Line, songs that established him as a new kind of country star.
Because you're mine, I walk the line.
Johnny Cash wasn't just a performer. He was a voice for the working class, the misfits, the outlaws who had been ignored by mainstream culture.
By the late 1950s, Johnny Cash wasn't just playing the Grand Ole Opry. He was one of the biggest names. He had a magnetic presence that drew people in, and his ability to connect with the audience was unparalleled.
But with success came pressure.
Touring was relentless, and the demands of fame began to take their toll. Johnny turned to amphetamines to keep going, to stay awake during those endless hours on the road.
The pills became a crutch, and by the early 1960s, they were controlling his life.
At the same time, his first marriage was beginning to fall apart, and the strain of his lifestyle weighed heavily on their relationship. Johnny's performances began to suffer. Friends and fellow musicians noticed his unpredictable behavior. Sometimes he was brilliant, but other times he was barely able to stand.
It was amphetamines, barbiturates, and alcohol, all three in a cycle for 7 years.
Then came that infamous night in 1965.
Johnny Cash showed up to the Grand Ole Opry intoxicated, and there was whispers backstage that he wasn't fit to perform.
But Johnny Cash was still Johnny Cash, one of the biggest names in country music. He was the man in black, the rebellious figure that had captivated millions. So he walked out on stage, guitar in hand, ready to perform, but that night things did not go as planned. Eventually in the performance, technical difficulties started. Frustrated and high on pills, Cash's temper flared. In a fit of rage, he grabbed the mic stand and dragged it across the stage, smashing out the footlights one by one. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the Opry, and the stunned audience watched as Johnny Cash, one of country's most biggest stars, destroyed the very stage that helped build his career. It wasn't just a meltdown, it was an act of defiance, a moment of self-destruction. The Opry had seen rebellious artists before, but this was something else entirely. Johnny Cash had just burned his bridges in the most spectacular fashion. After the show, Opry management made it clear Johnny Cash was no longer welcome at the Grand Ole Opry. As Cash later recalled, "I don't know how bad they wanted me in the first place, but that night I broke all the lights on the stage with a microphone stand. They said they couldn't use me anymore." For Cash, it sent him spiraling deeper into his addiction, and not long after, he wrecked June Carter's brand new Cadillac, crashing into a utility pole during a storm, and it was one of the lowest points of his life. Johnny was arrested multiple times, once in El Paso for a guitar case full of pills, and also was arrested one time in Starkville, Mississippi for allegedly picking flowers from someone's property. But Johnny Cash was never one to stay down for long.
Then came the turning point, June Carter.
But June Carter was a fighter, and I couldn't get over what I'd done to my mother. June found out where I was and came to my friend's house in Chattanooga looking for me. I found out she was coming, so I went to the cave, 20 miles away. And I had been up 2 or 3 days and nights when she got there, so I took my beer. I was drinking a case of beer a day and take it up to 100 pills. Half amphetamines and half barbiturates keep me going up and down, keep the cycle going.
In 1967, at the lowest point of his life, Johnny Cash crawled deep into Nick and Jack Cave intending to die. Struggling with addiction and lost in darkness, he lay there until he felt a sudden divine intervention telling him it wasn't his time. With renewed purpose, he stumbled out of the cave, where he was met by June Carter and other friends and family, beginning his journey to redemption.
In 1967, with the help of her family, June staged an intervention.
She knew that Johnny had to get clean if he wanted to survive.
It wasn't easy, and addiction is never easy to beat.
He knew he couldn't keep living the way he had been. In 1968, Johnny Cash made a triumphant return to the stage with one of the most legendary performances of his career at Folsom Prison.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
The live album was raw, real, and exactly the kind of music that had made him famous in the first place. It revitalized his career and proved to the world that Johnny Cash wasn't just a relic of the past. He was a force to be reckoned with.
When I'm stuck in Folsom Prison and time keeps dragging on.
Around the same time, Johnny made another return to the Grand Ole Opry. This time, his demons in check and his legacy intact. He was welcomed back to the stage that had once cast him out, and this time Johnny Cash was ready.
Yeah, we're going to Jackson. Ain't never coming back.
Johnny's career would go on for decades, with both highs and lows. He continued to make music that resonated with generations of fans, but the night he nearly lost it all in 1965 remained a defining moment. It wasn't just a fall from grace. It was the catalyst for his redemption.
Because if there was something Johnny knew how to do, it was fight his way back to the top. And in doing so, became a more powerful symbol of defiance and redemption than ever before.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash. And I'm glad to see you, neighbor. Hello, neighbor.
Thanks for watching this quick Johnny Cash video. I also wanted to let you guys know that we just started our brand new live performance series, the Western Side Sessions, presented by our good friends at Marshware. We just had Leon Meitzen come into the studio.
Take me back where the Gulf meets mango shores.
I'll link it after this video, but that's all I have for today. I'll see you guys on my next one. Take care.